What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, Fightful.com, FightfulMMA.com. Of course, we have FightfulWrestling.com. It is a very busy weekend, but I still wanted to hit you with a quick recap of UFC Moscow. We had New Japan today, UFC Moscow. We have Triple G Canelo tonight, if you're watching this live. And we will be bringing you a Triple G versus Canelo 2 post-show. Of course, WWE Hell in a Cell post-show. If you all want your weekly dose of MMA news, FightfulMMA.com has you covered. Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. every week, myself, James Lynch, Showdown Joe, bring you the best in MMA news. Nobody is as plugged in outside of the major sites owned by major companies than James Lynch. He talks to probably 100 fighters a month, if not dozens. Showdown Joe is a great historian, a licensed referee and judge, so has experience in that. And, of course, has covered the sport for a couple decades as well. James Lynch will be out of town this week, but every single week you all can come there, check us out, 2 p.m. Eastern, Tuesdays. But we do have that Triple G Canelo post-show tonight. Wanted to hit you all with a quick results video for this show because, quite honestly, a lot of these fights weren't really substantial in the great scheme of things. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'll save the main event for last. I know people are still kind of showing up, but Rustam Khabilov defeated Cajun Johnson. This is notable because it was by split decision, and it's Cajun Johnson's last fight on his contract. He's been very outspoken about opportunities provided in the UFC, about CM Punk, about Project Spearhead. I would be very surprised coming off of 2 straight losses, 2 killers at that, in Islam Makhachev and Rustam Khabilov. I'd be shocked if Cajun Johnson got another shot in the UFC. I would expect to see him probably Bellator bound because they are more than happy to accommodate a guy like that. Meanwhile, Rustam Khabilov back in the cage for the first time in over a year. Still not finishing people, but he gets the win. He has won 6 in a row, but has no finishes in that time. So I think until he gets a finish, he'll probably still be on the prelims of cards in Europe. I mean, he really, the only finishes he has besides that thumb injury to Yancy Medeiros was the beautiful KO suplex back in 2012, I think it was. And his momentum got slowed a little bit when he lost to Ben Henderson and Martins via split. But in the last couple of years, he's really turned it on, but not turned it on enough for anybody to take notice. If you are fighting at 155 pounds and you have 6 straight wins, usually people are going to say, man, you need to be facing the top 10 guys in the division. I don't see anybody begging Rustam Khabilov to fight any of the top guys in that division. He's not even in the top 15 off 6 straight wins. So we'll see how that goes. You have Merab Dvalishvili defeating Terrion Ware. His stock definitely improves. Emeev defeats Sekulik by unanimous decision. Taisimov defeated Desmond Green. What stock can you put into Taisimov's win over Desmond Green? Yeah, okay. Sure, 30-27s across the board, and that's nice. Desmond Green had lost 2 of his last 3, and Taisimov showed up 6 pounds overweight. 5 pounds overweight, my bad. The limit was 156, but mother of God, make the weight. He didn't even try. Peter Yan defeated Jinsu Sun. Oh, man, this finish. CB Dalloway. Murdas Zalayev. But I wouldn't say eventually he dragged CB Dalloway into deep waters. But CB Dalloway was doing fine. He tried to lock on a choke but couldn't get around to the right side to do it. But you could tell that he got a little bit tired towards the end of the second round, towards the middle of the second round, really. And Dalloway has had a bit of a career resurgence after he lost 3 straight fights. He took a year and a half off, fought at light heavyweight and beat Ed Herman, which was a gift fight. He got DQ'd, or he lost, or shit, he won via DQ against Lombard. But man, he got mollywopped here, and this could be a career changer for Dalloway, who is 35 already. Herb Dean just let him get slaughtered for an additional 20 seconds before, mercifully, he was not allowed to go out for the third round. How do you not call the end of that fight? How do you not do it, Herb Dean? And this is one of the best, in my estimation, in Herb Dean. But you can't go out and just the look on CB Dollaway. Go back and watch this fight if you have access to Fight Pass. He was just laying there, still almost damn near a fetal position. It was a defensive position at that. But I don't think he was conscious. And hadn't been for a good 15, 20 seconds, really. Just because he wasn't out doesn't mean that he had his wits about him. He wasn't all there. This was sad and scary. I believe that after situations like this, no matter the tenure of the referee, they should be reviewed. Even if it's standard stuff, I feel the same way about old people that drive. Hey, once you hit 70, 65 maybe, go in and get a couple tests done. Same thing can be done for MMA referees, because there ain't no way Mazzagatti or Mario Yamasaki would have made it nearly as far as they could. There's no way that an Adelaide Bird sticks around as a judge. Thank God we don't have to deal with her tonight. If there are some baseline testing for stuff like this. I mean, not to say that Herb Dean wouldn't pass that test. I'm sure he would with flying colors. But you need to know that you're going to be on your toes. Now, will that make people a little gun shy? Maybe. So, I mean, obviously there are people smarter than I that can pitch things, but yikes. Alexey Kunchenko defeated Thiago Alves. This is a big win for Kunchenko, even though Alves is not what he once was. This is not the guy who competed for the UFC welterweight championship at 100. He's not the guy that beat Koscheck, Hughes, Parisian, Chris Lytle all back-to-back. I mean, he had one of the all-time great welterweight runs, I thought, between 2006 and 2008, but this is not that guy. He's never pieced together 2 wins after he got mauled by George St. Pierre, and he tried to go to lightweight, but it didn't work. But for Kunchenko, that's a good win. Shamil Abdurakhimov defeated Andrei Arlovsky in an absolute snoozer of a fight. Yes, you would be surprised to learn that Andrei Arlovsky had a boring fight. And here we are. We're back here. It seems like every few years it happens. It happened in 2002. It happened in 2006. It happened from 2009 to 2011. It happened from 2016 to 2017. And here we are in 2018. That train's never late. An Andrei Arlovsky losing streak. He had won 2 in a row after that 5-fight losing streak. He had beaten Albini and Struve, who were top 15 guys, but he's dropped back-to-back fights at Tuivasa and Abdurakhimov, and that seems to be the method. UFC likes to use him to get other people over, and Shamil Abdurakhimov is no spring chicken. He's 37 now, but he's won 4 of his last 5. He's got wins over Walt Harris, Anthony Hamilton, Chase Sherman, Arlovsky, so not exactly top-notch guys. Timothy Johnson and Derek Lewis both beat him, but this fight sucked, man. It was not good. It was not entertaining. It was a snoozer. A snoozer is the level of progression that Nikita Krylov has presented. We have our fun at the expense of Nikita Krylov. My thing is, if you get caught with a Von Flue choke in the UFC, that's embarrassing for a couple of reasons. I'll break this down just like I do every damn time I see somebody in the position. To get put in a Von Flue choke, you have to put yourself in the Von Flue choke. You grab a guillotine and you hold on to it when someone takes side control on you. The first time that ever happened, the first time I ever did that, my catch wrestling coach put his arm underneath my head, his forearm underneath my head, his bicep over my throat, pushed down. My eyes almost popped out of my goddamn head, and I never did it again. As soon as somebody moved to side control, you let go of it. That is a mistake you make one time in your career. One time. So several years ago, Nikita Krylov, who was somewhat of a prospect, he was 15-3 going into the fight, had competed at heavyweight, but it was a light heavyweight debut. But he got Von Flued by OSP. As we have come to learn, OSP's Von Flus are still very high level, but you still got to put yourself into it. He just provides you with a lot less room to get out of it. However, at the time, that was not necessarily the case. Since that fight in 2014, 4.5 years ago, OSP has perfected that. It took him about 45 seconds to lock it on back then. I don't know what Jan Blachowicz was thinking in the first round of this when Nikita Krylov went for the same thing. He pulled a guillotine, tried to grab guard. Blachowicz switched over into side, and he held on to a guillotine choke. That should have been should have ended the fight right there. However, Krylov still can't grapple, as we learn, even though he just took 4 fights off, or didn't take 4 fights off. He spent 4 fights away from the UFC and finished them all very, very early. But Blachowicz just big brothered him, dominated him, beat that ass, and applied this odd arm triangle choke from the side. We saw another odd arm triangle choke from Jordan Johnson, who looked great. I'll talk about that momentarily. But Blachowicz has won 4 in a row now. He's, a crisp 35 years old right now, but he's won 4 straight fights. He had that standing bulldog over Devin Clark. He applied this. It was a darce, but it was an arm triangle. It was a little bit of both because of the position. He was basically hooked onto the side of Krylov, and it was great, as was Jordan Johnson. You all got to watch Jordan Johnson. He's just one you got to keep your eye on. He'll be 30 this year. He fought at light heavyweight and did great. Won 3 fights at light heavyweight. So you assume then a 29-year-old light heavyweight who's won 3 fights in a row, he's probably sticking around that division. Doesn't take a whole lot more to get a title shot. But he moved down to 185. Wasn't really happy about it. Adam Yandev, who had taken 3 years off, looked like a guy who took 3 years off. But that's not really complimenting the skill set of Adam Yandev, because Jordan Johnson's real good. Playboy, let me tell you, you see that red, white, and blue America country outline tattoo on somebody's back, you better try to stay out of the clinch. They're going to wrestle you. And that's what Jordan Johnson did. And now he's 10-0. Had this beautiful side choke where he did it cross body with the head and arm. That's magnificent. We're starting to see that more and more, and I love it. I love it, man. Good old catch wrestling, good old American wrestling, good old just wrestling in general, because you see it a lot out of the Russians too. Just not this one who has taken 3 years off in between fights, but he was presented the opportunity to fight. He was supposed to fight Krzysztof Jotko. He jumped at it, but unfortunately he ran into Jordan Johnson, man, and he is someone to look for. Mark Hunt is defeated by Alexey Oleinik. Oleinik, who has about 7 different ways to spell his name. It is unbelievable. I need James Lynch to interview this guy just so we can figure it out. So Oleinik, a little bit controversial for some of his political views, but he's a guy you have to look out for now. He's won 4 of his last 5, and these are wins over Mark Hunt, Junior Albini, Travis Brown. Those are good. His UFC career, he is 6-2. He has won 15 of his last 17. Let me run you through some of those, because his career took off in 2012, right after a split decision loss to Jeff Monson. He got back in there the next week and started this unbelievable winning streak. He beat Jeff Monson. He got that win back. He beat Mirko Cro Cop. And beating Mirko Cro Cop, some people say, oh, well, he's old, so it doesn't mean as much. People just aren't beating Mirko Cro Cop for better or for worse in MMA fights. He's won 8 in a row since then. He lost to Remy Bojanski in 2014 in a kickboxing fight, but other than that, that's the only person who's been beating Mirko Cro Cop in combat sports recently. So Mark Hunt was able to land this huge overhand right, and I was surprised. Oleinik's legs went out from underneath him, but it played out exactly like your boy said it would on the Fightful MMA podcast this past week. Alexey Oleinik's chokes, they call him the boa constrictor for a reason, my man. And Mark Hunt You can say what you want about how much he's improved, and he gets his underhooks in really well to stop some of those takedowns and shucks people off. But, I mean, ultimately his weakness is his ground game still. I mean, there are times, Stefan Struve couldn't finish him off, and it was really embarrassing, but you can still beat this guy on the ground, and Alexey Oleinik knew that. And the last time that Hunt had been submitted was 2010, and I think that speaks more about people fighting to his strengths than him being so good that people can't take him down. Curtis Blades grinded him out. I'm surprised that he didn't get a submission. Stipe Miocic knocked him out. Alexey Oleinik, man, did the damn thing. Mark Hunt has now lost 4 of his last 5. Can't say a lot about the last 3. Derek Lewis ain't on steroids. Curtis Blades isn't on steroids. I don't know about Alexey Oleinik, but oh boy, it was a decent show. Afternoon show. Kind of flew under the radar, but you have Abdurakhimov, who's number 14, beating number 12, Arlovsky. You have number 4, Blachowicz, beating a guy who's probably going to be ranked in Krylov. And you have number 11, Alexey Oleinik, and number 8, Mark Hunt. On FightfulSelect.com, our premium service, I do break these down every single week, these rankings updates. So make sure you all check that out. But most importantly, check out FightfulMMA.com. We have more robust recaps, but this one didn't really mandate an hour-long recap, but we will talk about it Tuesday on the Fightful MMA podcast. We have all your Fightful MMA news over at FightfulMMA.com. We have a great boxing section as well. That's Fightful.com/boxing. Pretty soon, that will just be FightfulBoxing.com, and you all will be able to get all that. Actually, it is. It's up now, FightfulBoxing.com. We have registered that domain. Carlos Toro is becoming one of the best boxing journalists in the world. You all should really check him out. He does a nice Fightful Boxing newsletter every couple of weeks. If you're a casual fan, if you're a hardcore fan, check it out. It keeps you in the loop. Leave us a thumbs up on this video if you all don't mind. We are available on Player FM, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all over the place, and of course, FightfulPods.com. Thank you guys. Tuesday, 2 p.m., Fightful MMA podcast. We're out.